Hello, everyone. Thanks very much for joining us here for another episode of the WPG Academy. We are delighted to introduce back Ksenija, who's been here many, many times before, former alumni of WPG, 2019, I believe.
Yes.
So, wow, a lot's gone on since then. What's that, 6 years?
Yeah, it seems like yesterday also, but also like 100 years ago. But
Yeah.
it's really good to be back, and thanks for having me, and always a pleasure to be back in the WPG circle.
Yeah, thank you so much for your opinions tonight. I know everyone's really looking forward to it. So before we make a start, tell us a little bit about what you're up to right now. I know you've, well, not recently had a new job now, but you have transferred to a new school. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I was very, very lucky to get a new job in North Carolina. So I am now at the University of North Carolina School of the Arts, and I just completed my second year of teaching there. And it's wonderful. I love it. I love the school. I love the students. It's a really, really amazing. It's my happy place. So that's been going really well. My duo is still cooking. Vesna duo still exists and pushes through everything, and we are now getting ready to record our second album. Super fun. And this last year has been kind of crazy. I've had I premiered a new concerto for marimba, and I had my Carnegie Hall debut, and some really wonderful things that I've been dreaming of since I was a little kid. So big stuff. And then now I'm actually on vacation. So y'all, it's nice to think about music after you've not thought about it for a couple of weeks. And I highly recommend it. If you ever get to do that, do it, try it.
Yeah. Touche. We were just talking about that before the stream, but yeah, that's great. And the new album, are you allowed to share the repertoire that you're doing, or is it a secret?
It is a secret, but it's a surprise.
Okay, cool. I won't dig any more then. Right, let's get into the percussion action. So we're going to start with Jared. If I just put everyone backstage. Mm-hmm. Hey, Jared.
Hello.
Hey.
How are you doing?
We're doing all right.
Good.
And you?
I'm doing well. Tired, but good. Summer's very busy for me, but it's going really well. It's good busy.
It's good busy. Okay. Yes. I still want to say, please go get some rest when you can, but that's all right. Yeah.
Fantastic. So you know the drill by now. I don't need to tell you. So if you just want to maybe say a brief synopsis of yourself and what you're going to play, and I'll work backstage and cue that video up.
All right. Sounds good. So my name is Jared Collar. I'm a percussionist up in Northwest Indiana, about an hour from Chicago. I graduated my undergrad back in 2018, and I've been out in the professional world since, playing in like orchestras, wind ensembles, and things like that. I finally got a marimba about a year ago, so I've been building those chops back up so that I can do more work as a soloist, and also been working on composing my own music as well. So today I have a piece that I wrote and dedicated to my wife called Wildflower. And it kind of goes through my life before I met her and how I was kind of felt very stuck and lost going through to meeting her and kind of our life now. So my goal is to kind of get that transition through the stages of my life in the music.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. We're ready to listen whenever you're ready, Tim. Yeah, that's awesome. That's
Thank you.
really lovely. I want to hear a little bit more about it because it's such a personal piece, unless it's all a secret between you and your wife. But I'd really love to know a little bit more about the music first,
Okay.
maybe. Tell
Okay.
me.
Yeah. So I guess in general, a lot of the different sections are inspired by different percussionists and composers that have inspired me and also my wife. My wife is not a percussionist, but she loves the sound of marimba, so she loves when I share work with her. So like the beginning is a little bit inspiration of Michael Burritt's October Night. And then the very ending is a little bit of Ivan Trevino's Strive to Be Happy and
Mhm,
Kate Nishimura's Her Spirit Still Listens.
mhm.
And the middle section kind of has a mix of a few different composers that I can't think about right now, but I know is inspired by a couple different composers there too.
That's awesome. So patchwork of inspiration.
Yes, yeah.
That's awesome. Um, and do you mind then telling me a little bit more about yourself? I think this feels like a big arrival point to after graduating uh, a bit ago. Now finally getting your own instrument. I know how that felt. I mean, I was 30 when I bought my marimba, and I just felt like liberation, unlocking. Oh my gosh, I finally have an instrument. I finally have a voice. It's like I felt like the Little Mermaid, like finally someone
Right.
gave me my voice back. Eventually, how did that come about, and how do you feel now that you have an instrument for a year?
Yeah. I guess tying it into the music, like the whole beginning is like feels very stuck. Like growing up through high school and even college quite a bit, I struggled with a lot of mental health stuff, and music was kind of my release. That was my therapy at the time. Sure, a lot of people can resonate with.
Mm.
So when and after I graduated, I felt stuck. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life and my career, but my wife was always there, full support, whatever I wanted to do. She would be there to back me up and make sure that no matter what I did, I was happy doing it. So when I finally ordered my marimba, that was where a lot of my free time went, was that. And so just her still supporting me through my instrument and getting to do all that is a big inspiration for this. This when I first got the instrument, it didn't have resonators. It was just the rosewood bars.
Mhm.
And I actually just got resonators for another recording. So this isn't for this marimba. It
Uh-huh.
only goes down to the low A.
Okay.
Uh, and it doesn't quite fit. So some of the notes aren't over a resonator.
Hmm.
So some of them are a little wonky, but
Hmm.
it's having something now is like bringing a new life to the instrument. And
Hmm.
I kind of took a break from this for a couple weeks before bringing it up to re-record it for you
Hmm.
and rediscovering this music again with the resonators and finding like new voices within what I wrote without the resonators.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Um, I just want to say again, I love how personal this is for you. And this is one of those things that, in a lot of helping and teaching, helping young artists find their voice, it is always about trying to get them to a point where the music is at this level of being personal as it is to you. The fact that you have combined your passion with this very important relationship in your life, and with such a wonderful person, such a supportive person. um, for me, there's nothing more beautiful, and to give her a gift of something like this, it's just so lovely. So I love witnessing that.
Thank you.
um, Now, I wanted to actually see, I don't know if you've had a chance to work with anyone else on this, and kind of what comments you got. I wanted to know, what is it that I can help you with? Because this is fully yours, right? It's your music. I can't know it better than you can. And it's kind of like, what kind of perspective are you looking for?
Yeah.
Yeah, tell me.
So I did get to present this to Michael Burritt a couple weeks ago.
Hmm.
And he gave me some performance tips and as well as just like one little compositional thing. But you said he's like, it's your piece, you do what you want. But I really like this section. If you could think about expanding it more, ultimately I decided not to. It just felt a little too forced for me. But if you have any, I guess if there's any other sections that you think like musically could be reworked a little bit, or even just performance wise in general, like tips to bring out the different emotions in the story a little more.
Yeah, sure. So if we're looking for first compositionally things that could maybe it could be massaged or looked at. So my impression of the whole music is that there is an innocence and the transparency to the music, and kind of, there is no thickness or density in terms of the texture. Really, it's all very much, maybe it's not exactly a music box, but there are so many moments that feel like an intimate lone voice singing. And that is perfectly fine if that is your goal, if you want this thing to really feel very, very personal that way. If you do want to maybe have the piece travel through some other types of spaces and worlds, I thought that, for example, let me see, which section was that? Sorry, I did write that down. I'm trying to find it. I also wanted to say I love the harmonies. I really think that they're so, I wrote so many hearts and like pretty nice. So I really liked it. Yeah. I think, right, the section between 21 and about 53, if you wanted to, you could densify it a little bit. Now, I know that there's an ostinato, there's a wave, a repeating wave, but you might want to sprinkle something in. And this really isn't, when I studied composition, when someone would ask me to do that, I remember I would usually get like an emotional reaction of not liking it. But when I thought of it as like an arranging process, it's like the core idea stays the same. It's just, can you put in a few things that just make it shine in a different light to densify it? It worked for me. And then I think that the section between 111 and 150-ish, 149, that could perhaps be a little bit fuller in the bass line, especially from 131, where you do introduce a little bit of left hand separately, right? I think that there is a little bit of space. Again, if I was to recommend it within the confines of the idea that we want this to be very much like looking out a window into something clear and beautiful, and there's simplicity, no unnecessary things.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes maybe, a moment of some beautiful counterpoint when there are two voices intermingling, that could even be the two of you,
Okay. Yeah.
So something very, very simple where both voices are beautiful. And again, it's still, intimacy exists between 2 points. It doesn't have to be a lone point, but it can be, I think, really pretty. I wouldn't otherwise, mess with too much of what you did. I think, again, it's your voice and it's a dedication to your wife, and I can't know that better than you, So it's highly personal. When it comes to the performance, one of the things that I wrote down was that I thought that, and that now totally makes sense when you mentioned the resonators. I wrote down that it would be lovely if you could play this in a room where you play the resonance of a big room, because I think even though the piece, again, is very personalized and very much here, inside your heart, I feel like it does somehow, the story should live in a space that allows it to travel a lot, like a big resonant concert space would be very much worthwhile. If you get to do that, like if ever you're playing with an orchestra and you can
will in September.
Okay, I love that.
I'm playing, I have a recital coming up in September and I plan to premiere it then, so.
Awesome. So I would record it then as well, because I think that the space can help. Because the thing that I thought was that sometimes going into that most deeply chocolate part of the marimba, the bottom part, I felt like you might have been a little bit too impatient with it to move on. But now I get it, because you're not getting the exact feedback from the instrument. There's not much for you to sit with, right? So I would reevaluate my pacing once I am in a space that I like, because the space really is your second I mean, the resonators are one resonating chamber, but really the room is perhaps even more important, right? So because this is all you, and I think you should publish this and give it to other people to play too, it's really important to get a really good product that represents the piece in its most beautiful, polished version,
Okay.
If you can. Yeah. Let me see. One other thing that I really liked about your writing was the fact that you put in a lot of emotional directions for the performer. So gently, solemn, flowing. You really do take us on a journey through a lot of things, and sometimes even very quickly. We go from joyful to with compassion, for example. I think that's really, really beautiful. So I see that you are emotionally very aware as a composer. And I wonder, as a performer, what do you think is the difference between playing, for example, joyfully and with compassion? What does compassion sound like?
To me, almost sweetly, but like you're playing it for someone else. Like that section is you're not playing it for yourself emotionally, you're playing it for the listener emotionally in a way.
I like that. I really like that. Now, what does that mean to you musically? How does it translate into what you would do musically or physically?
To me, the way I've been experimenting with is like, especially right at the start of that section, taking a little more time, and allowing the weight of the mallet to produce more of the sound rather than forcing the sound out.
I love that. And I think that's a really good point. So with compassion could mean leaving space for the other, right? And leaving space musically as well, to allow also the listener to allow them to kind of soak everything in, right? And I would say then that I love the dots that you've written and how the journey of the piece goes. But I think that all of those, and this is tale as old as time, I'm going to tell you nothing that you haven't heard before in your first lesson ever at university or whatever. The contrast. But I don't mean the just like take the contrast knob and intensify it all the way up without knowing what it is. But really, if you're looking to play with compassion, how can you play it as if it's the first time you're hearing some story and you need to make room for compassion for that other person, right? Or when you're playing sweetly, how can you play like you're playing on the tips of the heads of sleeping kittens, that you don't want to wake up. You're just kind of like trying to pet them a little bit. But that's what I always find to be interesting, is try to explore where those boundaries are and even go overboard. And you can easily backtrack a few steps. But I think if you are in the additive process of like inching towards gentleness or something, then you can end up staying inside your box. And I stay within mine also when I approach it that way. But kind of try to extravagantly explore the wonderful things you've given yourself. Blooming. I love that. Like that section, blooming. And I think that section will work beautifully in a big hall, because you'll have the resonance and you'll hear how each chord that you play, how it peaks and how it dies, right? But give them all more space and pursue them all to a bit more of the extreme as you're exploring, and then you'll find their rightful space, I think. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
I would also highly recommend that you give it to someone else to play.
Hmm.
And I think this is an excellent exercise, maybe even before you. Well, no, let's do this. You premiere your work first, and then I would say perhaps it's a private student, perhaps it's a friend, perhaps someone's going to hear you play and they're going to really want to buy the piece from you after that recital. Give it to them and stay involved. Just hear the piece through another person's ears. It's a really special experience. And for me, it always provides another layer of editing when I'm done composing. Like, even though I think I've done everything and I play my own stuff and it seems fine, but then once I hear it, like I see it through other people's eyes, I realize, I need to be clearer here. Or, wow, I love this, the way they flipped it upside down. Let me leave a lot of room. Let me take away what I've written down for the performer. I want people to explore here. I think there is a layer of editing that happens after you've given it to someone else too.
Right.
So
I have done that with a couple other pieces, and yeah, it definitely happens for sure.
Okay, so then again, you know this, you know the process. But that's really, really wonderful. Tell me, is there anything that I can help you with? Anything else that you're curious about?
I guess not necessarily about this, but I know with your duo and with your students who work a lot on like transcribing, arranging for percussion, I guess percussion ensemble and like percussion feature works, I still am struggling with writing, but I'd like to get more into that. What, I guess, advice would you have for layering and timbre and choosing instruments for things like that?
Yeah. So I would say start with arranging, because arranging is a very simple way to be emotionally attached to some music already, which then you get to have in your hands. So whatever you like to listen to, take it and arrange it for a minimum number of players, just 2. That's enough for a chamber group. And limitations are your friend. So instead of being like, you can have any instrument in the world and just enjoy it, that's actually very, very hard to write for. But when you know that it's 2 people and this is the equipment that you have, then your creative survival self kicks into gear and you can come up with some brilliant ideas. So I would say, explore that end of it, because that is usually more available to people. And then should you ever be in a circumstance where you can have 15 people play with you and you can have a really impressive percussion inventory at your disposal or whatever, you can explore that too and realize that even though it's a privilege, it can also be a burdensome experience for the people playing, to have these massive setups because you've really wanted to have this one extra level octave crotale for like a single note and so on.
Yeah.
And eventually you find your truth somewhere in the middle. You realize how important it is to look at things economically and so on and so forth, So you're kind of looking for getting the richest possible sound and the most interesting orchestration with minimum involvement from the players, right? You're always trying to make their lives easier. But my bridge trick there is, unless you love composing and it comes too easily, for me, it's very emotionally taxing. But for me, arranging is much easier because I already have something that I listen to every day when I go for a walk. And I'm just like, yeah, I'd love to live this inside this song. I want to play this. I want to know what these chords are. I want to jam to it. And let me find a friend who would love it too. And I create an arrangement, and that's where I get really curious about, but in the song, there's this thing that happens like an 808. How do I do that in acoustic instruments, So do you get to play with people? Do you have chamber music?
Not often. There aren't a lot of percussionists in my area because I like mallet percussion mostly, and I'm kind of the mallet player in the area that I serve. I do have a couple friends up in Michigan, but it's about an hour and a half, so it's really difficult to get schedules and time all that out together. But I'd like to, in the next year or so, try to get something started either with them or someone closer to me.
Yeah. That is, I know. I also have a long distance duo. So I know what it's like to not have your playing friends right there next to you at all times. But you know what? you've graduated, you've gone through school, you've gone through life. You know how to get organized. So if you find someone who you really love playing with, write something, arrange something, or maybe there's a piece that already exists that you love. You will be amazed at how you can microwave things. Just like get there really well prepared, and your partner should be really well prepared. Just put it in the oven, and within 48 hours, you can have a really wonderful experience. Something that you're used to, taking a full semester as a student, you can do as an adult much more quickly. So if this matters to you, if you love playing with people, I would highly encourage you to continue doing it, because it's for me, it feeds my soul. I love playing with people. So if you miss a day, I encourage you to take that 90-minute drive, even if it's just once a year, with your friends, and do whatever fills your cup. It's really important.
Okay.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I think unless you have any other questions, again, all I can say is thank you so much for sharing this with us. And I'd love to hear I'd love to hear the final recording, the recital version. So please do send it. And I hope you publish it and sell it.
Yes, I plan on it, and I will definitely send it to you whenever it's done.
Awesome. I'm excited. Thank you. So nice to meet you, Jared.
Thank you. Nice to meet you as well.
Beautiful.
Thank
Well
you.
done.
Awesome.
Very good. I've just had a message from Carlos. Sadly, he, for unforeseen circumstances, can't come tonight. So we're under no time constraints. So go as long as you want with everyone. That will be fine, Ksenia.
Yeah.
Next up, we're going to go. Well, we're not going to go to Colombia. Normally we would, but David's actually in Germany.
Okay.
Hello.
Hello. How are you?
Hello, Tim. Fine, thank you. Hello, Ksenija. I'm David. I'm from Colombia, from High Colombia. I'm actually playing with music and dance, traditional music from Colombia, in Germany, in a tour. But today I'm going to present a marimba piece, rhythmic plays by students. I'm preparing my recital undergrad. I'm finishing my degree, and this is for prepare the whole recital with you, with the coaches, and I think that's my introduction.
That's awesome.
All right, great. Could you hear that all right, Ksenia? Because that was not great, but...
I am doing part lip reading, part listening. I don't know if there's anything we can do with a mic. Let's see.
It's better this?
Could you speak again, please?
It's better now?
It's a little bit better. It's a little bit better.
All right, let's do our best. So we're gonna have a little bit of rhythmic caprice.
All right. Well done. Well done.
Thank you.
Yeah. Can
Is
you
the mic better?
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
can hear
yeah.
you very well.
Good, good. Okay, so tell me a little bit, how did you end up with rhythmic caprice of all torture mechanisms? How come you chose this piece?
I think the first time I watched a video of this piece is like the piece is a lot needs a lot of uh, physical efforts with the positions and the transitions and all things. So that's one of the first things that I noticed about that, and it's interesting because it's a piece with like different sections with different emotions for me, and that's one of my biggest questions because uh, I don't know how to change my mind between each section because it's so different like in emotion, in speed, in all the things.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Okay, okay. So, and how long have you been playing the piece?
like 3 months, it's not much, many times.
Okay, yeah. I mean, this piece is hard, so
Yeah,
good job. Good job.
thank you.
And you're doing a wonderful job of setting a very good foundation. So that's awesome. So tell me, because this piece is very different, much like, I mean, Velocities has a little bit of this. Like, this piece really requires you to get into a position that's so uncomfortable that it could hurt your whole body, right? You can't really practice the opening section simply, right? It's not like you could do it for 10 hours. It's almost like you become a
No,
symphony.
it's
You can only
impossible.
do it for a very short amount of time, and then you got to rest your back. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how are you practicing those physically hard parts?
So this part, first of all, I start to go to the gym for working my body in general, for chops of the fork. And before playing the marimba, I do some squats maybe for warm up, and yeah, but I can rehearse that section like more than 40 minutes maybe,
40?
because it, yeah, but
That's a lot.
yeah, but
That's, yeah.
yeah, like I study not 40 minutes in a while, like
Uh-huh.
short and like I don't know, maybe 8 and 2 minutes to rest, and that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah,
and
there is that reality of which we don't frequently encounter, that something is so physically challenging that we literally cannot sit there for hours trying to just play a bunch of reps and it's going to be fine. Um, whenever I play music like that, I try to, I mean, you've done this, but I try to learn the music away from the instrument, or read the pitches not in that very position, but just read them playing regularly so I don't mess up my back. And then if I can, I get a chair and I stack some pillows so I can, because again, if I am in that position for an hour, which I do need many, many hours for that to come out the way it should, and for me to end up finding the right way to play it, I mean, it's just impossible. So some sort of a seat is really, really helpful. But it seems like you've already got that. So that's awesome. And keep taking care of your back, because you'll
yeah.
need it for a very long time. So tell me more about the mallets that you chose, because here the mallet really defines much more than the sound. It also defines this super uncomfortable experience of playing on the side of the bars.
Yeah, so about the mallet, like first in Colombia, it's kind of hard to buy mallets. It's very expensive. It's no too many options. So that ones are marimba one, Lim Barton, Rattan,
Hmm.
uh, and I choose those mallets because uh, the one I already have of birch is like so tiny, and I was afraid about like broke the mallet for playing on the edge. So
Hmm.
I decided to choose the rattan. It's more flexible and is less risk that the handle broke.
Right, right. And that is wise. Are the handles thick? Because they usually are a little thicker, so they're harder to move with.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Um, okay, so I know how you feel. I grew up in Serbia, where my all of my first mallets were made by my teacher, because there was no store to go to and no website to go to order anything. So I know what it's like to have a very limited um, toolbox in the beginning. Again, hopefully now you're in Germany, and maybe you can make a stop at Thomann and like
yeah.
get a
That's
little
the
something for
I want
yourself.
to do that actually.
Yeah. Just to get some different mallets. So I anytime I would play anything that has this portion of music, again playing kind of on the edges of the bars, I would just destroy so many mallets. And I found that Van Sice mallets, like the gray ones, I can send you the exact model. Again, I'm not sponsored. I don't. It has nothing to do with me. But genuinely, for this kind of playing, they've proven to be super durable, and they're light enough so that they're not difficult to move with. So you can move around the instrument more easily. So I can send those to you, and when you go to the store, maybe you look them over and see if they fit you. But they've just been a life changer for me when it comes to this kind of music.
Okay.
Um, have you played around with where you play on the mallet when you play with the shaft part of it? So, like, if this is the head of the mallet, have you tried playing? I see that you play a lot kind of lower here, but have you
Yeah.
experimented with all parts of the mallet?
Yeah.
Mhm.
For me, like the best sound is near to
Head.
the tip,
Uh-huh.
but sometimes it's kind of hard to maintain the same position in the in the edge. So the best option is that, but it's kind the most difficult actually.
Yeah, you're right. So here's what I would recommend. I totally agree. Is obviously if you play closer to the head, you're going to get the most weight of the mallet. So the bar is going to resonate the most. And in the relationship of getting the pitch and getting the effect, like the click of it or the tick of it, it's going to be pitch and click. So the click is present, but it's not predominant. Whereas if you go kind of playing close to your hand, you're going to get a lot more of the click and much less of the pitch, right? And something that you can do, which could be interesting, is you could kind of move across where you're playing just to kind of crescendo and decrescendo, so to adjust the levels, you know?
Okay.
So
Yeah.
maybe you start playing very clicky, and then you grow into a lot of pitch content. And that also means that you don't have to stay here playing, close to the mallet head for a very long time, because that's really hard. But it can create a nuance that is very different and can kind of feel like, okay, the music is coming closer to us. This ticky stuff is going further away. So play around with it and see, the same way that, when you play a marimba, you could play straight, but you could play the crown of the head and all these things to get a different color. There's also variables in the color here, right? So
Yeah.
Experiment with that and see if it serves you.
Yeah.
What are you doing when it comes to the stamina to play this piece? Because this piece just almost never stops. It just keeps going, and it's hard, and it's harder, and then it's hard again. And it's like almost no part where you get to rest. How do you deal with that?
It's kind of hard because I think I don't have the piece in on tempo. It's kind of slow yet, and I like to usually study with metronome and increase like just 1 BPM because it's so hard actually. But there's a section like the middle. The video is divided in two because I cannot connect those sections yet. And for example, the second one is more lyrical, more freely, and I try to mix, like I study like, I don't know, 20 minutes the speed, and other 20 minutes that section is more like to rest a little bit.
Yes. So that's all really, you're doing all the good stuff. So you want to rest when you can rest and recover energy. So don't try to push sections that are supposed to be lyrical or sweet sounding into being choppy. Just let them be in that space and then replenish energy. And then when it comes to playing chops, really go for it. It's also really smart that you're doing the 1-click increase, because you're basically not noticing that the tempo is increasing. You have a lot of patience with it, and that's great. But that's the best. Slow progress gives very long results, right?
It's kind of hard to be patient with that, but I'm doing my best.
Keep it. It's really, really good. The other thing I would mention is, have you tried, so let's say that now you're practicing, it's a slower tempo. It's not slow, but it's slower than what it will be in the end. Have you ever tried playing like in slow motion instead of just play at a slower tempo? Did you know the difference?
No.
Right. So if I decide to play something like slowly, and let's say this is my tempo, that's just playing things slowly. Let's say that that's all the hits that I have to do. It's just like this. But actually my final tempo for that piece should be like, right? So to practice it slowly means just to do this. To practice it in slow motion means to do this. Does that make sense? It's almost like when you take a video and then you play it in slow motion. So all your movements remain the same as they are in a fast tempo. You're just moving almost as if through water.
Okay.
And that helps a lot, especially if you pair it with this one click increase. That helps a lot with building virtuosity, because what you're doing is you're mapping your whole body to learn how to move when it's going to move fast, rather than move this one way when it's slow. And then at some point you are going to have to change how you move, because it's going to get too fast, and you're not going to have these breaks, right, in between. You're going to have to be constantly in motion. Does it make sense?
Okay. Yeah. Definitely.
So that is also a wonderful thing. And I don't, maybe you know the wonderful player Josh Jones. He talks about this all the time, and you can look him up. And I'll also be happy to send you a link to watch some of his stuff. He's really, really amazing, and he uses this all the time. And he's not the only one. I mean, people, have been using this for a while. He just really, really promotes it, and I love that about him. So that's awesome. I also noticed that there was the sections about mallet adjusting, right?
Yeah.
How did those feel?
Like, for me, it's kinda easier to control the mallet when I'm stroking, because Steven said that you have to hold the mallet in the other side. But for me, it's kind of difficult to control the mallet in that position. So that's why I decide to invert the position of the mallet. But
okay.
I don't know if I am doing the best option, or I'm just doing all just more difficult. But I think the sound for me is better in that position.
Okay. I like that. You're experimenting. That's totally fine. And you can keep this, and you might, getting this solution gives you another problem to solve, and you're going to have to look at that.
Exactly.
And then you can try the other solution too, the one that he recommends, and look into solving that. The thing that I really like it. So when you play it, they're really crisp, and they're really well spaced, and you do a really good job in your right hand. Now the question is, there are a couple of ways to play it. You could keep your wrist down on the key and just kind of lift the mallets and play, or you could lift your wrist and kind of just play from top. Totally up to you. But to go back to the transition is a little, it gets
That's the problem.
all my attention, right? Because it's a little bit, it's a little too involved. And I mean, I was all eyes on that hand, which really wasn't playing, it was just adjusting. So if you can either turn that into a little magic trick that you do with a little less, a little less forward, little less taking all our attention as an audience member. I think that would be a really, really good thing. I love that you're exploring a different solution, but it feels a little like, and here we go.
It's not ready yet.
And that's okay. It's really, really hard. But just know that if you've chosen this path, then you have this other battle to battle, which is, how do I make this as subtle as possible, right?
Yeah,
right. So I heard that you've been playing the marimba for a fascinatingly short time, considering how well you play. I've heard that really, it's really amazing. And I wonder, can you tell me a little bit more about how come you started recently, and tell me a little bit about your education.
Yeah. So I started when I was young. I was a child in a marching band, just playing snare drum. Then I don't study music actually, and in 2021 I decided to start the university career, and I don't know nothing about formality or for playing marimba or vibraphone or timpani actually. So I have been playing keyboards like 3 years and a half, maybe.
It's amazing.
And yeah, because also in Colombia it's kind of hard to have those instruments like in a high school or something like that. I mean, in my city, just have two universities with percussion instruments, and it's like four marimbas in the whole city.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's why I start my studies so late. So what?
But you're doing wonderfully. And really, I feel you. That all sounds very much like it did for me. I know what it's like, but you've got a drive and a passion that transcends all of it. So that's
Thank you.
really, really, really amazing. And stay patient with it. I don't know how you feel, but I felt in the midst of all of those circumstances that are beyond our control. Oh, it sounds like someone's having fun there. I felt like I had a lot of catching up to do. I started late, and then everyone was already playing all these concertos and and I was like, oh my God, when am I going to play the serious repertoire? But be patient, stay patient.
It's kind of hard. That it's really hard.
I know, but you're doing great. You're doing great. So one of the things that I wanted to also talk to you about is right now, the way you're playing, and that's totally fine because you're playing an insanely hard piece of music. As a very young player with, so few years behind you of having access to this, is the way you play right now feels very much like the axis, like the way you move is like this a lot. And even when you play like one mallet here, you kind of move like this. And you release a wonderful you unlock new energy if you start to do this. So your mallet can move not only this way, so not just like this, kind of like with your hand, but also sideways, right? So you're using a little bit, it can kind of go in all directions, becomes three-dimensional, right? It doesn't just go up and down like that. It can travel and get side kicked and, all these things. So whenever you play, you can, yeah, exactly. It's like a little 8, like a figure 8 that you do to prep that, because the prep is what defines the sound and everything we do, really. And if you diversify your prep, all of these inaudible things that we do, right? Preps are always completely silent. You get a much more interesting sound, So think about all those things as you play. So it's not just like pressing a key, but it really is like, can you swing the mallet up so you gain momentum and then just let it drop? And you can do that in this axis as well as this one. You can combine.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
So I think that is another thing that I noticed. Did you have any questions? Is there anything that I can help you with?
The one I talk about in the start of the class, like how you prepare your mind to change like your feeling, your emotion in a short piece like that. Like, yeah, I don't know if you got.
Yeah. So to do it very quickly, you're gonna practice the changes, really, because what we want to do is we want to switch characters almost at the flip of a switch. And so to me, it's almost like being an actor. I have to feel this one emotion, and then I very quickly have to tune into another one. And in order to do that, for example, what you could do is take any section you like. Take that do da dum ba ba bum dee da dee da 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 da, and play it 3 different ways, and play it in 4-bar loops, or like four times, repeated 4 times. play it one way, name the emotion. Say, I'm going to play it now kind of with a lot of intensity. Do-da-dum, da-da-dum, da-da-dee, da-da-da-dum. Almost like, you got a drum set player behind you. And then I'm going to play it really sweetly. Da-dum, da-da-dum, ba-da-dee, da-da-da-dum. So I'm not going to change the tempo or anything. I'm just going to try to change the emotion. And then pick whatever your third is. And you'll notice at first, you're probably going to feel a little lost in the first time you play it. Second time around, it's going to be better. Third time, it's going to really crystallize. And the fourth, you're going to start blending into the next emotion. But once you know really what you're going for, like you hear it in your head, you're going to be able to switch much more quickly. And also, I don't think that this piece requires too many immediate changes. You can massage the tempo into sometimes slowing down or kind of rushing into a thing that has a lot of new energy. I think the music does allow that. So you can prep yourself, it's not just like you're stitching two completely unrelated things together. There is a way to connect them emotionally. But again, pick any motive that you want to play and just say, could I play this as if it is hopeful? Could I play this as if it is sad? And see how that works. Can you switch? And name it. You can say it out loud. Sad. Play it. Happy, play it. Hopeful, play it. And see what comes up.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Of course. Thank you so much for playing. And I am so in awe of you and what you're doing. And I think it's so awesome that you're playing at this level and that you are conquering all these new spaces. And now you're in Germany, which is so crazy. You're traveling, so
Playing music, and that's really good to me.
yeah, that's amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you, Ksenija. Thank you so
Keep
much.
going for it.
Great. Thank you, David. It sounds like there's some sort of
Thank
party.
you, team. Isabella. Sorry about that.
That's all right. That's okay. All right. Have a good night.
Have a good night.
All right.
People having fun.
Yeah, it's definitely having fun. We're going to go to Zach now.
Awesome.
Hey, how we doing, Dr. K?
All right. Hey, we're doing all right. How are we doing, Zach?
Living the dream as always,
I know you are. I know you are. That's awesome. Where are you at? Are you in North Carolina? Where are you at?
Yes, ma'am. I'm at my apartment in Greensboro. Or where are you at?
Yes, I am now at home where I came from. So I'm visiting, some old friends, some family, and enjoying
very cool.
Serbia for a bit. So yeah.
Sounds very nice.
It is really nice. So I see that you're also playing some chop busting piece here. Yeah.
I am.
Tell me.
So I selected you for this because of I guess for the people on the stream, I had a master class with Dr. K when she came to my school, and you talked about I just showed her like a snare drum piece that I kind of learned out of haste because I wanted to learn an entire book. And what the comment that stuck with me is that this could be your piece, and you can this is something you can kind of identify with, and you don't have to just learn the whole book. And this is the follow-up, and this is Apocalyptic Etude, something that took me a while to learn because I didn't have the technique with it, but I grew with it, and it grew on me. And I won't say in this video I was connecting with it, but I really have started to now, and I'd like to continue to explore like what I can do to do that.
Awesome. Let's hear it. Yeah. We heard that and we will continue. Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. And
Thank you.
I can tell that you vibe with the piece. So that is, I'm so glad that you've found the music that really speaks to you, and then you can build upon that initial emotional relationship and like the response that you get. Because tell me, what was your first impression? When did you first hear this piece? Why did you pick it?
I heard my friend, my influences, right? The same friend that told me he learned all those books. I heard him play it, and I was like, "What is this? This sounds really cool." So I looked it up on YouTube because he only posted a short snippet of it, but I looked it up and I was like, "Wow, this is tight."
This is tight, yeah. And your friend is a good influence. There's nothing wrong with learning a book. I just want to restate that. But it's good that this grabbed you as music, not as just the idea of doing something, right?
Right.
All right. So I assume you've worked on this with many other people throughout your time at WPG, yeah?
Yes.
Yes.
One might even say too many times. I think this might be the 4th time I've submitted it. But I've had some extra ones in there that I just, this is the one I want to take this to a competition in the fall. So, just trying to get all the extra comments I can. Yeah. Okay.
So I'm not going to then talk to you about you missed an accent here if you did, or I can't imagine, but I'm sure that all of that's been covered already. So this for a competition?
Yes. And also just kind of it to be like my piece, like
okay. Yeah. So if we take the competition route, because it can be your piece and go to a competition, which competition are you considering?
The PASIC keyboard competition.
Okay, cool. All right, so that is a fantastic crowd that is very enthusiastic about all of this, but also it's double-edged sword because everybody knows everything, right?
Right.
All right, so let's start with this. I'm sure you know what the music is about. There's very little written about it, right? What is the point of this being an etude? Why is this an etude? And why is it not like Apocalyptic Night? Why is it not called that? What's an etude for?
It's a study, right? That would be okay.
Right. And etudes really, in reality, they have 2 purposes for the performer. What are they?
To teach something through the music. Maybe that
is one. What's the other?
Not sure.
To demonstrate brilliance, really.
Oh, okay.
So right. So etudes you can use them either to improve your skill or to demonstrate your skill. And hopefully, actually, through the evolution through your own evolution within an etude, you can go from being on the struggle fest part of it, which means that an etude should bust your chops, but then you rise above it, hero's journey, and you arrive at a point where this is actually a glorious moment for you to demonstrate your virtuosity, right?
That makes the title really fitting.
Right? You go through your own personal apocalypse to arrive. And so the question then is, because etudes have kind of the easy to understand front end of what's difficult about them, which is etudes could be busting your octaves or working on your laterals or whatever. But there is also a personal moment in there, and that is then the next question for you is, what is this etude challenging you particularly to do? Because you say, that this is hard, but you also have really good chops. So what exactly is hard in there for you, both physically and otherwise?
Well, at first, I really so it's like I bought a marimba and I was really able to just get at it and just try to go about it as many ways as possible. I did not have the chops to do this at first. So it challenged me in that respect. Now that I can play it, I've just tried to make the choppy parts, pretty much all of it, just easier to play, because at that recital, it was actually still like physically like painful for me to like get through that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, not so much. What's challenging now is you have a bit of a story that kind of a storyline throughout it, and it's trying to maybe communicate that effectively.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to tell me what is the storyline for you?
Yeah, I went through a little bit of a breakup, and it was only it was 2 months, from March to May, and we broke up in May, and then it just kind of going through the motions, from the time her and I first met, and then how long it lasted, and then the kind of the pain that lasted after. I mean, it probably took me about a year to get over. Which is, but yeah, it's trying to communicate that and some of the emotions, frustration. I guess the cycle of grief, or is that what the stages of grief? That's what they call it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing, and I'm sorry you went through that. But this is music is a wonderful. It is a great way to metabolize all of these experiences that might be hard for us. So this is certainly one of those where it's great to channel that energy into the music. So do you see stages of grief in this music, or is it mostly within one stage? Where does this fit?
Yeah, so I would say the opening line is kind of like the rush of feelings you get, the rush of feelings I get meeting the person. Is like, uh-oh, like I like them, and then throughout of it, it's kind of just the roller coaster that ensues, and then D is like right. It's a really complicated story, but I think the sweetly part would be how long it actually lasted in comparison to how like long we knew each other, and then the page 6 is probably anger, bargaining, and then depression all in there. And then whenever it the coda, I guess it goes back to the beginning. It's what the rush of feelings means for a different time. It's kind of I'm escaping it and leaving that part of me behind. And then the I guess from H to the end, it's a grand finish of sorts, kind of finally just shedding who I was and becoming something new.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, again, that's all deeply personal, and thank you for sharing. But you've got a lot of very nuanced connections with the music, and see, I wouldn't have on my first listen of this piece, maybe have gathered all of that, not because you didn't put it in there, but because I feel that the makeup of the piece, no, it really isn't you. It is that the makeup of the piece and the construction of the piece is so, to my ears, so intensely what the title is. It so feels like the walls crumbling, and I guess I took it maybe very literally, that the apocalypse is outside instead of inside.
Oh, it was intense.
It was everywhere.
It, yeah.
Okay. Well, hopefully you're past that now, and
yeah, we're good.
Yeah, good. Okay, you're good. But so if this is something, again, so deeply personal, one of the things that I notice as a listener, or as a viewer, actually, because as a listener I couldn't have gathered this, is how you approach the instrument and what kind of headspace you're in, what kind of body language you have before you strike a note. And again, I understand that this performance was in the context of a recital, and there are other things probably going through your head at the moment. But there is a little bit of that, kind of walking up to the instrument in a very neutral recital way, and then putting your mallets down without making any sound, and then lifting and starting. And that's fine, but for your chops and for your emotional stage where you're at with this music, you don't need those little safety nets to do this. Like, this is what little ones do, when they approach and they're like, okay, is this my chord? Yeah, I got this. You don't need that. You know where that chord is. So for me, it becomes a matter of, just like a theater actor, the moment that I step on stage, I am already in the groove of what's coming. And so even if you've got that moment where you step away from the previous piece and you kind of back off the instrument and you bow your head down and you're thinking and focusing, the moment that you lift your head up, it is your moment when you're on stage and you're about to say your line, And so again, if you kind of, approach it in this, I'm going to call it a little pedestrian way, but, kind of like, oh, now it's walking, now it's adjusting, and now I play. It's almost like an actor just standing there and being like, blurting out a sentence, but they're not really engaged with their full body. You've got to be engaged with your full body, right?
Of course.
So approaching the instrument and just being like, jump, bum, instead of finding it, locking it, and all that. Does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely.
So I thought that your ending was very, very good. So at the very end, you don't need that. I felt like you really did kind of shut that door or whatever, it was that one final drop, and you really showed it. And I could feel that with you. But the beginning felt a little bit more defensive. It was a little bit more scared, a little more student-like, in a way that it's like you think you're small and can't take up so much space.
Yeah, playing that music back then, it made me feel like a student for sure. It's really hard licks. I feel you, but just bravely into the lion's den. Just go for it, right? Right.
So that is number one. Then I would say, because he mentions that this music has been influenced by Chopin, Liszt, and then Thelonious Monk and Wayne Shorter. Have you found where the Monk and the Shorter influences are?
No, I haven't, but I found where like the Chopin and the Beethoven. But
Liszt, yeah.
I asked like my drum set teacher it's like, hey, like, do you know where this would like? I have no idea where to start in finding this. I don't know where it is. Do you know perhaps?
No, I don't know where the Wayne where the Shorter and the Monk are. And that's what I'm curious about. I don't think that it's something that it's like an easy find. I think it's a little bit, takes a little bit of listening. I would say, I think the Freely section, 86, could be a little moment of improv. It feels a lot more fluid that way. But again, I think Dave Hall is a little bit too smart to insert 2 bars of something and call it an influence. I think there are influences in there that are that I just can't grasp right now. And who knows, maybe it's an email to Dave and being like, hey, I'm really looking into this, and I've listened to like these 4 albums and I'd love to know what it is, because it could give you more fuel and more ideas. So I would say that's something to look into. One more thing. So going back to Chopin and Liszt, because this is so piano influenced, which Pius has explored a lot of, and there's already a significant amount of rep for the marimba in this language. A great thing to do would be to take pianists' methods and apply them to your own practice to kind of get ahead a little bit more. And what I mean by that is you're obviously playing a lot of, it's so choppy, and you're constantly shifting responsibilities. Your 2 hands are talking to each other, right? It's really kind of more like a single 10, well, it wouldn't be a 10 finger, it would be a single 4 finger pentacle or something, right? You've got, it's kind of joined. But to practice independence there and to separate things, so just the way this pianists would separate left hand only, even if you're playing like a bass line and then a little bit of internal stuff in an ostinato, so boom tira, boom tira, boom tira, practicing just the external textural parts. So I'm just going to practice bass and for example, leading line in my right hand, practicing only the inner parts without those bass and the leading lines. Little things like that. If you can find 5 or 10 ways to practice things that are nothing like you've ever practiced before. So if you're really creative in the practice room, you will be really creative on stage. The creativity is not only saved for the stage, it really is about people who practice very creatively and in very innovative ways and very curious ways. They're the people who sound very curious on stage too, because they genuinely do listen like that.
I like that. Thank you.
Oh, well, you're welcome, and thank you for that. Talk to some pianists and talk to them about what are the ways in which they practice, and you might get a tip or 2 that work for you. Now tell me, in all of this boiling rage and chaos in this music, what is the peak for you? Where's the straw that broke the camel's back?
If I had to pick one, it would be the coda at 130, like how it goes from 134 back to the beginning.
Okay, that's a really long buildup.
Yes, if I had to pick 2, then I would do probably C. That's another one. I don't know. I find that I'm usually bad at identifying things like these.
Well, do you play video games?
I used to play a lot, yes, ma'am.
So, the final boss situation, right? So you can't have a boss and a boss and a boss and a boss and a boss, because then the game doesn't really go anywhere. And just, any story, see it in video games, you see it in movies, you see it in books. Sure, you might have little obstacles here and there and things that build you up, but what is the thing that is really risky and that's really, really emotionally intense, where it feels like, oh my God, if, she doesn't catch him now, he's going to fall off that cliff, and that's the end of it, but she's got to fight off this dragon first or whatever. What is that moment there for you? And this moment can shift. That's the beauty of you being the sole performer, is that you can choose that tonight it's going to be this thing and tomorrow it's going to be that thing. And if you play this piece for 10 years, you'll see that dragon is going to change its locations at all times. But you've got to locate it to begin with, and you've got to become aware of it. So it's just the architecture of the music is, what are you saving the emotional intensity for? Because if everything is intense, then nothing is intense, right? And don't resist the urge to translate physical intensity into emotional intensity, meaning that the thing that is actually physically the hardest for you,
Ooh, okay.
to take that as a cue that this should be the peak of the music. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's like you're like a dancer. Dancers maybe have to do some really, really incredibly difficult things, but they still have to seem really light to us, and like, oh, this is nothing, I'm just on my tippy toes and it's all fine, but actually internally they're like dying a little bit. But there is a big moment in the music where maybe they do something very simple and they just like lift their hands or whatever, but it's the most emotionally intense part of their performance. So you've got to separate the two. Don't allow the fact that you are physically struggling to be the only way that you flag a peak of music. So there's that.
I like that a lot.
Oh, I'm so glad. I'm happy that I could give you not one, but two things that might be useful. Tell me about 56 and 58 and 60. What are they there for?
56, that's a bar of rest.
Yes.
And what were the other ones?
58 and 60.
Oh, it's changing a little bit. It's starting a little bit of a new thing, and it's allowing the listener to sit with it a little bit, maybe.
Absolutely. Yeah. It is a space for undisturbed resonance, and it is a space for us to, as you said, sit with it. But one of the things that is, I think, a good show of a mature musician is to shape the silence with the exact same vigor as you shape sound. So take responsibility for that silence. Don't just, and I'm not saying that you're doing this, but I think you can go into it more deeply. Instead of being like, it's just 1, 2, da, 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 1, 2, kind of like counting it off. Don't split the silence. Don't math it, feel it. Because silence, in human communication can mean so many things. Somebody says nothing and you know that they're looking at you with love. Somebody says nothing and you know that they're sulking. Somebody, nothing is said and it can mean so much. And sometimes it can mean so much more than words. Now, what are these silences? Right? Exhales, spaces, do they have to be exactly 2 beats? Can they be 2 broad beats? Can they grow? Can they relate to one another? Is the first one small and the second one is like you found room to breathe, and then the third one is when you finally get your big breath before the piece continues, right? But don't think of them as something that is metronomically or kind of like almost something you can dissect in a lab. It's not that. Feel them, And let me see. One of the things that I noticed, this is very small, but the moments when you have those sextuplet runs, like at the very end, they're triplets, 16th note triplets. I don't know if this is true, and maybe it's just the recording, but it feels like you tense up a little bit. So otherwise you have this really big sound, and I can hear all the notes, but here it feels like the sextuplets or the triplets, instead of kind of going like, they end up being slightly kind of more surface level, and they're a little lighter. And so instead of feeling like they're like, this thing approaching us, it feels like it fizzles out. It kind of like disappears.
Yes, ma'am. And this is at...
It's like for example, 148, for example. It's like at the end of a crescendo, it's like the final push. And it feels like you're getting... Physically, maybe you're holding on to the mallets a little bit more.
Yes.
Instead of letting go.
Okay.
So, counterintuitive, but very valuable. And you can practice this literally. At least in my head, it's a trigger where I just tell myself, relax and trust it. And that's where the crescendo and those fast things just happens, rather than something hard is coming, I have to be more in control, hold tight, and then they end up kind of becoming thinner and they're counter effective. So there are only a few spots like that, and they're usually like that when they're one directional. When you're doing laterals, your six doublets are very good.
Okay.
But it's usually when they're going in one direction that they feel like they don't serve the exact push. And what else? 85. I had one comment for 85. Let me see. The sweetly and freely. 85. This is just my personal thing. It's very, very small, but I felt like that arpeggio being separated was. It's almost like saying a sentence and then waiting for the end. It kind of felt a little bit like that. It's really, really minuscule. You could also throw that in the trash, that comment.
Would you go straight into it, or?
Yeah, so you can play single-handedly for the last few notes, just with your right hand, so you can start stretching the arpeggio immediately. So, pa pi pa pa tu ta 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 pi. Kind of think more like what a guitarist would do, or like a harp would do. How would that sound? Rather than needing space to physically prepare for the arpeggio. And let me see, was there anything else? Last comment. Anytime things repeat, I'm sure you know this. Anytime music repeats, your intention with it cannot repeat.
Okay.
So like C, zoom bum, zoom bum. Those can't be the same. They're either fading or they're intensifying, at least. Right? So those two chords that break us up, and then you go into playing that D. Do something with it. Either make it travel forward or back. It cannot like walk in place because it's very unnatural. It literally feels like that. Like, okay, our feet are moving, but we're instructed to just like march in place. It's
right.
It's not something humans do without being instructed to do so, and it feels very artificial. So, you can make those bigger or smaller.
I like the way you put that, because I've always heard that if the music repeats, don't do the same thing twice. But if anytime music repeats, your intention with it cannot.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that definition a lot better.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's all I had. I really think you did a great job. Do you have any questions or anything else I can help with?
Yeah, just a quick little thing. So at F, man, it's so hard there because it says piano, but it's going. I feel like I have to go so fast. I was working with Professor Beck, and he said, maybe play on the nodes there, and then one of the like a student or like a friend of mine came around and was like, no. And then I asked somebody else, and they were like, that's a good idea, like play on the nodes. And then I asked somebody, like another friend of mine, he's like, no. Should I just like play it quiet, or like I don't know what to, like obviously like putting it on the nodes would kind of be avoiding the playing fast and softly and being clear. But if this was you and you were playing that line and you had to play piano, what would
I think the question is, what would Zach do? Not what would Zach ask a million people, but what would you like to do? what makes sense to you. If you have to prioritize, sometimes we gotta pick our battles. What sounds good to you?
I don't know. I haven't figured it out yet. I mean, I guess maybe I will at some point, but I think what I've done is like a combination of trying to be comfortable on it and also make sure the mallets that tend to be loud and don't need to be, maybe sit back a little bit closer to the notes,
Mhm.
or look a little bit closer to the strings, like kind of like a combined sort of thing. Because there's also some like da 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 that now I'm starting to like trying to dig into, but it's just very difficult.
It is really difficult. But again, I think I mean, one thing that seems to be a through line, at least from today, is that you ask other people a lot about their own experiences and their own solutions. But the most important person to have that conversation with is you.
Absolutely.
And it really is up to you to find what serves you. But you'll find the answer to that question once you feel very, very convinced about what that music should sound like in your head, like you can hear it. And then you find the way to do it. Because otherwise, if you don't understand, I mean, of course, there are millions of options out there, but if you don't feel very strongly about any of them, like you don't have this burning vision, this burning auditory vision in your head where you're like, this has to be that way, and I have to find a way, for example, for this to speak really clearly. Or I love the fact that all of this can sound really foggy. I want it to be very obscured. I want this, interesting node sound. Then you'll find a solution. Once you find your why, you'll find your how. But right now you're asking a lot of questions about how would people do things when it seems to me like you don't have your why very defined for yourself. And you're not going to know how to get somewhere when you don't know where you're going.
Absolutely.
So it's tough. I'm not saying. I would spend a lot of time with it, and I would try a lot of different ways. But you should ask. You should talk to yourself about it.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Good. Well, it was really good to see you, and thanks again for playing this. Yeah. Good luck at the competition.
Nice one, Zach. Do you know what I was thinking, Ksenia? I think Zach is a prime candidate for Powder Keg.
Oh yeah. Yes, please. Let him add some Caleb Pickering music and let Caleb at him.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh,
I'll fill you in later, Zach.
Yeah.
I'll fill you in later.
You'll have fun.
I have Drift sitting over there on the shelf. I bought it when I was like.
This will haunt you too.
Yeah, I bought it when I was like 18, and I looked at it. I was like, all right.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Nice one.
Yeah.
See you later. All right, we're going to go to Mexico now. Sergio has a translator, Fernando. Hola.
Hola.
Hi.
Awesome. Hola.
How are you?
Yeah, good. Your connection's a little
tricky,
but let's see how we go. Sergio, do you want to introduce yourself and what you're going to present?
Yeah. My name is Sergio. I'm from Mexico. I am currently studying at the Universidad Autónoma de Zacatecas. It's in my city. My city is Zacatecas. And my teacher is Manuel Eduardo Melgarejo Bentancur. I completed the basic and the upper secondary level. I just passed the ¿cómo se diría?
Degree?
Degree
college.
Degree college. And I'm happy to be here and meet you. About my piece, my performance. It's my first time that I had played this piece, and I would like to improve my technically and musicality. It's a short video for the time, but yeah, this is all.
All right.
Great. Awesome.
Great. Shall we go ahead and have a listen?
Let's do it. Yeah, that's awesome. Well done, Sergio. That's great. I want to hear all of it. Where's the rest of it? You sound so good.
Quiero escuchar todo lo demás, ¿dónde está toda la pieza completa? Que suena muy bien.
Lo tengo por el momento en mis archivos, pero lo puse un extracto pequeño para el tiempo. Es que tenemos.
It's only on his cell phone for the time.
Okay.
Quise aprovechar el tiempo posible para, cuando ella para
So
la hice muy pequeña.
Okay, he wanted to have more time in the comment section, so that's why he made the video so short.
I understand, but I wish I could hear the rest of it because it was developing so beautifully. So I think you did a great job.
Que hiciste muy buen trabajo y que le gustaría escuchar el resto.
Thank you so much.
Can you tell me a little bit about how you found this music and why you wanted to play it and what did you play it for?
Que si le quieres decir un poquito de cómo encontraste esta música, por qué la quisiste tocar y para qué la tocas.
Ese fue mi concierto de cambio a licenciatura. Entonces encontré esta pieza y me gustó porque es muy enérgica. Y pues por eso.
¿La encontraste por qué?
La encontré La había escuchado una vez en YouTube, pero no.
Okay.
Y me gustó.
So he had listened this piece in YouTube, so he liked
Mhm.
it and he found it, and he decided to play it for his recital
Yeah.
of change of course.
Yes, yes. I understood. This is fabulous. I think somehow listening to or watching some TV shows from Spain and Mexico and so on when I was little helped a little bit. So I could understand a little bit. Muy enérgica. Yes, I agree. I can tell that you love the music, really.
Y te das cuenta que amas la música.
And I think your friends playing with you also like it.
Y al parecer a tus amigos que están
Sí,
tocando también les gusta.
es mi maestra y 2 compañeros.
Yeah. And here it's when it's ensemble playing and a recording like this, it gets a little bit hard to really understand how was it in the room. But maybe one of the things that we can talk just a little bit about is balance with the instruments, that because you're a soloist and there's a group behind you.
Que es difícil saber cómo estaba sonando realmente en el lugar, porque pues es por el tipo de grabación, pues, pero que una de las cosas que siempre hay que tomar en cuenta es el equilibrio, el balance, es como la ecualización entre los que están tocando atrás de ti y tú que eres el solista.
Oh, okay.
Right. So I love this kind of music. This is also very, for me, it feels like it was written at home, because in the Balkans where I'm from, 7/8 is like, it's what we do all the time, odd meters. So
Sí.
Yeah.
Ya que ella le gusta mucho ese tipo de música y que, por ejemplo, de los Balcanes, que es de donde es ella, se utiliza mucho esta métrica, ¿no? Que es de 7 octavos, entonces que para ella es como el 4/4 de nosotros, pues de allá 7 octavos es de lo de diario, ¿no? Y que le gusta mucho.
And it's very energetic, right? But the thing that happens then, especially with having a marimba in front of a bunch of people playing drums, is that it can be hard to hear it, right? Because everyone is very excited. But if 3 drummers play loud and the marimbist plays loud, the 3 drummers win.
Sí, o sea que por el tipo de instrumento, pues si estás con 3 tambores y tú estás tocando la marimba, por el tipo de instrumento pues va a sonar más los tambores, ¿no? Entonces que es muy difícil cómo lograr esa...
Okay.
And the question is, for you, how did you feel in the room? Was this, how was the balance? Did you hear yourself? Did you have someone listening to you, just specifically to know that you're always heard?
Que sí, que tú cómo escuchaste o cómo sentiste ese balance, si tenías alguien enfrente que estaba diciendo, o que te dijo que te estaba escuchando para saber si, la marimba sí sonaba, los tambores no te estaban comiendo, o qué.
Yo en ese momento yo sentía, nunca hicimos como prueba de que otra persona dijera cómo se escuchaba, pero yo sentía que tenía que subir un poquito más el volumen por los tambores por todo eso.
So they didn't have a time to make like a rehearsal in the room, and they didn't have a person listening to him to know if he was playing loudly enough, but he felt that he had to turn up the volume of the marimba because he knew that he was playing with the drummers.
Yes. Okay, well then, considering everything, you did really, really well. It's just, again, with things like these, especially when the music is so spicy and everyone wants to go all in, the marimbist can end up drowning, and then we don't hear you playing this beautiful melody because everyone is super excited.
O sea, el tipo de piezas, pues nada más hay que tener cuidado de eso, de que la marimba no se ahogue por todos los tambores, ¿no? Porque todos están muy emocionados tocando.
Okay.
So things like these, for example, because you really play it beautifully. I want to say once again, the opening is so beautiful. You really feel that 7/8. I can tell that you're excited. I have very little to say about, practice like this or whatever, but there is an element in music making before you play live, which is very important to do. in order for things to fall right into place, in chamber music especially, and that's balance.
Que una de las cosas que tienes que pensar mucho, sobre todo antes de entrar en escenario y sobre todo en la música de cámara, es el balance, el equilibrio, como la ecualización, yo diría.
Y, por ejemplo, en este caso, como que los tambores le tendrían que bajar más, o yo le tendría que bajar más, o cómo sería ese balance o cómo tomar en cuenta ese balance de tambores.
Okay. He's asking, he wants to know how to take account this balance, how to work on this balance before the presentation. Maybe tell the drummers to turn the volume down, or he turn the volume up, or what?
Yes. So when I will answer your question. So when we prepare for something like this, so usually you're practicing in one type of room, maybe it's a smaller room, and you're playing with people, and it's a very different configuration from a concert hall. You're spending 90% of your time really perfecting that. So you're playing alone, you're practicing, you play with people, and then maybe 95% of your time, and then you spend only 4% of your time actually playing in front of people. But that 1% that you have to determine the balance has to happen between you rehearsing and you performing. It is a crucial element in order for everything to be presented well. Because even with all this practicing before, if the balance isn't right, then all your good work gets drowned out. And even though it takes like 15 minutes, it is the most important 15 minutes on stage that you have to try to find with your group, and always find someone to listen so that you can adjust things. Does that make sense?
Ya, sí, dice que tienes que encontrar fuercita del tiempo entre todo el tiempo que le dedicas a los ensayos, que incluso puede ser el 99% del tiempo que tocas la pieza y el 1% que tocas la pieza, que es durante la presentación, y tienes que encontrar el momento fuercita entre los ensayos y la presentación para encontrar ese balance, o sea, tener un ensayo en el lugar, y darte cuenta cómo está la sonoridad del lugar, ¿no? Porque si no tienes esa oportunidad, pues se pierde todo el balance, ¿no? A lo mejor piensas que va a tener cierta sonoridad, no la tiene, y puede ser que tu instrumento de solista pues quede ahogado por todos los tambores. Entonces, aunque, o sea, tú perfeccionas tu música en los ensayos, pero a fuercita tienes que tener tu tiempo de ver en el lugar.
Sorry, what is your name, Sergio's friend, the translator?
Fer.
Fer, you are fantastic. Thank you so much. You are remembering things that I forgot I said also.
I'm trying.
You're amazing.
I hope I'm not making it up.
No, you're doing great. You're doing amazingly. Okay, so we're now talk about Fernando, yes. So we're now going to talk about how to do this. So when you're preparing for a performance, if you can, and you should insist to have time in the space with your group and with one listener. And even though, we always think all we need is our group on stage and that's fine. No, you need group plus one, always. Yeah. Someone you trust.
Que los escuche. Que no nada más el grupo, sino que a fuerza tiene que haber alguien allá que los escuche.
Okay.
And then you want you and the whole group to have very quick ways that you can fix the balance if the listener says something. Like, for example, if the drummers have so much equipment, you want them to come in with towels or moon gels or stick choices. You need to have sticking choices. Maybe they can quickly move to find a different location on stage that sounds better, but just have everyone be ready to quickly adjust something, right?
Que todos tienen que estar listos para ajustar algo en el momento en el que la persona que está escuchando les diga que está desbalanceado. Entonces, por ejemplo, a lo mejor, creo que towels, you said towels, right?
Towels, yes.
Yeah, so
yeah, like for bass drum, a towel, yeah.
Para ponérsela como. O opciones de los palos. O moverse a lo mejor en el escenario más lejos o más cerca, dependiendo de lo que se necesite.
Okay.
Right? And that is the secret ingredient to sounding very confident on stage, and then making sure that all this work that you've done really shines through, because you've got to adjust it. Every stage is different, every room is different. But this thing, even though it lasts only 15 minutes, we think, oh, it doesn't matter. But it's like the most important part before a performance, really.
Yeah. So, aunque nada más dure 15 minutos, pues tú tienes que asegurarte de que logres este balance perfecto, ¿no? Porque pues realmente es lo más importante, estos 15 minutos donde vas a presentar todo tu trabajo. Entonces, que sí es muy importante que quede pues bien balanceado eso.
Okay.
And if you know the space, for example, already, then you might, practice with different mallets, because you know that in that space you always need to play out a little bit more. Or even if, for example, you have, let's say it's your concert day and you only have your group and you don't have +1, take one person outside of the group and ask them to sit, even though you're going to have, only a portion of your ensemble, but they're still going to be able to hear probably what is very close to the final balance. They're going to hear if you are above or below the ensemble, and they will be able to help.
Entonces, si no tienes alguien más, pues entonces, o sea, una persona que los escuche, alguien del ensamble que se vaya para enfrente y los escuche, aunque no vaya a ser exactamente lo que va a sonar, pero va a ser muy cercano y va a ser mucho mejor. Ajá. Y que trates también con diferentes mallets, ¿cómo se llaman? Maquetas.
Sí.
Que trates también, porque si tú conoces la sonoridad del lugar, a lo mejor sabes que tienes que tocarlo un poquito más fuerte o cambiar la sonoridad, que también lo intentes con diferentes maquetas.
Okay.
And you can also always ask for something like this, for example, like that section in 1, bum 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 bum, you can teach a friend how to play this. They can play it, the drummers can play, and you can go and listen in the back, and you decide what is enough. Just put someone in there for a moment to play your part, something very simple, just to hear the balance, so you can make the decision.
O que tú mismo, alguien más toque tu parte, o si tú le enseñas a algún amigo o ya se la sabe, que toque esa parte y tú te vas para enfrente y tú mismo tú decides, no, pero quiero que suene más, yo quiero, entonces tú ya sabes, pues la indicación a las personas que tienes que hacerlo.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Again, I think that you played so beautifully. Your roles are beautiful. Your lyrical playing is beautiful. Your groove is great. Your 7/8 is awesome. I really wanted to hear more because I felt like everything you did was great. I really liked it. Do you know that there is an orchestra version of this piece now?
Yeah.
Sí, sabías que había una
Yes.
Sí. Yeah.
que le gustó.
You should play it.
Deberías de tocarlo.
Okay. Yeah.
You should play it. You should play it with like your school orchestra or something. I think it would be great.
Okay.
I mean, do you have any questions? Is there anything I can do to help? Because I don't feel like I have much to say.
Que dice que no siente que tenga tanto que decirte, pero que sí sientes que si tienes alguna pregunta, con lo que te puedo ayudar. Sorry, we're having trouble with the charge.
Yes. Take care of it. Yes.
Ajá. Si tienes alguna pregunta que le quieras hacer, algo con lo que creas que te puede ayudar.
Sí, por ejemplo, sobre los nervios, yo sentía como que mucha presión, o a lo mejor que ciertas partes que eran libres no las interpreté bien por la presión que sentía, por los nervios. O sea, me gusta tocar, pero los nervios es una parte que aún no logro controlar y me suele equivocar demasiado en muchas partes por a lo mejor estar pensando, voy bien en el tiempo o si están correctamente las notas o todo eso.
So he says he gets very nervous when he's playing, so because he's sometimes thinking about, am I playing the right notes or the right tempo or many things. So he feels like he makes a lot of mistakes because of this, the being nervous. So tu pregunta es
¿Cómo o sea, qué me recomienda para controlar eso?
So he wants to know your recommendation on how to control his nerves.
Okay. So the first thing is, I don't think you can, or I can control my nerves. I think what we can do is learn how to not be in shock when nerves happen. So have nerves more often so that you learn how to swim in them and how to think clearly through them.
O sea que como pues no cree que realmente podemos controlar nuestros nervios como tal, sino que más bien te pongas en situaciones donde tengas donde estés nervioso, o sea, a lo mejor tocar más enfrente de las personas, para que aprendas cómo navegar en esta situación en la que tú estás lleno de nervios, ¿no? Y aprendas cómo tú manejarlos, o por lo menos tocar bien, pero sabiendo que vas a estar nervioso.
No, okay.
So instead of try to not be uncomfortable, just try to be uncomfortable more often so it becomes less intense.
Sí, o sea que estés, ¿cómo se dice? Nervioso más frecuentemente, para que se vuelva menos intenso, o sea, para que te acostumbres pues a la sensación de los nervios.
Por ejemplo, siempre me pasaba que no fallaba en ciertas secciones, hasta ese día fallaba en la que menos me solía equivocar.
Yeah, because he fails, there are many sections that he never failed in rehearsal, and wrong when he was on the stage.
Yes, and this happens to me too. Now tell me, what do you do to take care of your nerves? What do you normally do?
Tú para controlar tus nervios, bueno, para estar
hago mucha respiración. Todo lo pienso más despacio, a lo mejor. Y simplemente, por ejemplo, a veces hago ciertos ejercicios con un elástico o todo eso para relajarme.
Okay, so he does breathing exercises with a rubber band, and he tries to think.
Sorry, could you repeat the last thing? It cut out for me. He tries to what?
To think everything more slowly.
Yes, that's a very good process. So here are my thoughts about nervousness. To be nervous means that you care, right? Oh, can you hear me? Is it just on my?
Si estás nervioso, significa.
So accept it. Don't be scared of being nervous.
Acéptalo, no tengas miedo.
And then breathing exercises, meditation, thinking through things slowly, all of that is really helpful. But also really play in front of people in uncomfortable situations more often. So instead of having one big concert, build yourself 5 more small concerts before that, so that you get used to how your brain is and how your body is when you're nervous.
O sea que en vez de tocar un solo concierto grande, pues te trata de tener 5 conciertos pequeños antes de ese, ¿no? Donde te expongas a la situación de estar muy nervioso, para que veas cómo tienes que controlar tu nerviosismo.
Okay.
Also, there are all those exercises in case you get physically very affected. You know, some people shake, or some people get, they breathe very fast. A great thing to do is to do physical exercise before practicing, for example. So running a few laps around a building, or doing some jumping jacks or push-ups, just to get your blood flowing very quickly, because that's similar to what being nervous does to your body. It's not going to be the same, but it will be a more similar experience. And again, you're trying to get used to it and see, how can I control my body better if, for example, I'm sweating and my hands are sweating and I feel a little uncomfortable. So you can do that too if you want to just practice the physical part of it.
Si quieres practicar como la parte física de controlar tus nervios, bueno, de manejarlos, antes de practicar, que también hagas algo de ejercicio. Por ejemplo, le puedes dar unas vueltas al edificio o te puedes poner a hacer, no sé, este ejercicio, ¿cómo se llame? O sea, brincar, pues, de tal manera que empiece como a tu corazón latir rápido, o a lo mejor te pones a sudar, o te pone en una situación física similar a cuando estás nervioso, ¿no? De tal manera que puedas aprender a manejar como esto. Y a la hora de estar practicando, pues como a lo mejor tienes que controlar o saber que vas a estar sudando, saber que vas a tener tu corazón así, pero pues aprender a manejar.
Okay.
Yes. So it's nothing to run away from. And I think it can turn into a very positive nervousness. I used to have terrible nerves when I was a kid, when I played piano. And then now when I get nervous before a performance, it feels more like going on a first date. I get like little butterflies, but I'm like really looking forward to it. I am nervous, but I'm really looking forward to it. And I think there's something about shifting that into positive. Like, I look forward to it. I really want this to happen. That's important. But build yourself a little ladder. So instead of just having one concert, have a concert for your friends. Have a concert for your family, like a little, run through. Play as much as possible, because then your brain is going to do that thing where it forgets the first time, and then you're going to do better next time. And then when the big concert is there, you're going to already have practiced performing. You're not just practicing, you're practicing performing. And that's why performing becomes more comfortable.
Dice que cuando ella estaba más joven, cuando era estudiante más pequeña, bueno, más joven, que también se ponía muy nerviosa, muy fuerte, ¿no? Pero que ahora ya cuando va a tocar, sí siente nervios, pero que lo siente más como mariposas en el estómago, como cuando va a tener una primera cita, por ejemplo, y que, o sea, sí se siente nerviosa, pero que espera ese momento a que llegue, o sea, ya quiere que llegue ese momento. Entonces, que tienes que llegar también un poco a ese punto en el que pases de uno a otro, que hagas una pequeña escalera, ¿no? Primero, por ejemplo, toques para tus amigos, después toques para tu familia, y por ejemplo, y así, o sea, 5 conciertos antes del final, ¿no? Y que cada uno, pues, vas a decir, en el concierto pasado me pasó esto, sentí esto, ¿cómo lo corrijo? Y el siguiente concierto va a ser mejor porque esa parte que aprendiste cómo controlar eso que te haya sucedido, pues lo vas a corregir, y el día que llegues a la presentación final, pues ya vas a tener mucho menos nervios, o por lo menos vas a saber mejor cómo controlarlos.
Okay.
Yes, I hope, does that help?
¿Qué te ayuda en lo que tú estás diciendo?
Sí. Yeah.
Great. Yeah. I really want to say again, I really enjoy watching you play. I see you love it. And so as an audience member, I only want you to succeed. And I believe in you so much. And so I want you to maybe try to remember before you go on stage that what you're doing is not a test of your skill. You're not demonstrating that you are amazing. You are sharing a very meaningful story with us. And you're doing it beautifully. I am so with you while you play. I really loved it. So I, as an audience member, I feel grateful. And just remember that part. Don't worry about, am I going to look stupid, or am I going to forget something? It doesn't matter. We're humans. We forget. We don't do anything else in life thinking this same way, being scared. Only when we go on stage. And no reason. Just remember the beautiful part of it. You're doing something amazing and giving a gift to the audience. Sorry, I interrupted you, Fernando. Go ahead.
No worry. Let me remember.
Sorry.
A ver, no worry. Dice que, bueno, que muchas gracias, porque como público ella realmente lo disfrutó mucho, entonces que se vio que también tú estabas tocándolo con mucho amor, o sea, que amas la música, y que te lo vuelve a decir otra vez, que lo tocaste muy bonito, muy hermoso, y que le gustó muchísimo, y que no, que la única vez en la que sentimos miedo es cuando estás en el escenario, ¿no? Que nada más que haces en tu vida vas con ese miedo que cuando vas a tocar en el escenario, ¿no? Pero que entonces pues no tiene por qué ser. Si no estás en un examen, no tienes por qué demostrar tus habilidades de, vengo aquí a demostrar mis habilidades, o vengo a equivocarme a que me critiquen, ¿no? O sea, es como un regalo que tú le das al público de enseñarles pues la pasión que tienes por la música. Entonces que no vayas con ese temor, ¿no? Pero que es súper chido y que sí es como un regalo para el público, pues la manera en la que lo tocaste.
Okay.
Okay, great. Well, it was really, really lovely to listen to you play and to chat. And thank you so much to you both, Sergio and Fer. You've been great. So lovely to talk to you.
Yeah, thanks, Fernando. It's amazing translation there.
Professional, really professional. Yeah.
Nailed it.
Yeah, amazing.
What? What did you say?
Sorry. I said amazing translation.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. No, I'm not professional.
You should be.
You should be. You could be.
So yeah, I think this topic of nerves has come up probably in like 6 or 7 of these sessions now. It's becoming quite apparent that everyone's thinking about, trying to handle the nervousness of the event, whatever that may be. And I don't know about you, Ksenija, but I think it's definitely something that comes with experience and maturity a little bit.
Absolutely. And the environment, I think.
Yeah. I can tell you one experience that I've had in real time of this. And it's when my duo came out to perform. It's quite a long time ago. It's about 2009 now. It was in the early days. So we were quite inexperienced at that time as well. And we came on stage to do a multi-percussion piece, which was in 7/4. And in the first bar, this is a 6.5 minute piece. In the first bar, they're interlocking rhythms for the whole piece as well. First bar, we got out of time. So I'm trying to say like, this is 1. And Jason's trying to say, this is 1. We're both thinking, this is awful. And it felt really bad. So we get off stage, it's like, this is it. Like, we're finished. This is so bad. Anyway, went out to the crowd and they went wild because they were like, that is the most energetic, engaging performance I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And then it was like, I come to the realization that it doesn't matter.
It really doesn't.
It doesn't matter. I play wrong notes all the time.
Same. I collect them.
In fact, the worst thing is, Fernando, maybe you can translate this later, but the worst thing is like when you're playing and I get to the realization I've not hit a wrong note. It's for like the first minute, it's like, oh, this is going really well, and then bang.
Yeah. Just don't do it. Just don't even go into that headspace. It's pointless.
So I think definitely something which with age and experience you'll come to realize actually this is just a celebration of what you're presenting and offering to the audience as well. So yeah, I concur, definitely.
Yeah. I think for me it is much more about a pursuit of truth and honesty than it is of perfection. And in truth and honesty, there is the truth to the score and the honesty to do a good job to present the composer's vision or whatever. But I allow myself to be human. And my worst experiences and the audience's worst experiences, what I've learned, and my chamber partners, if they're involved, is if I get obsessed over playing something perfectly, and then of course I don't deliver because that doesn't exist. And then I get in my head and I lose the thread and I get angry and I get disappointed and I can't take a compliment and then I'm sour the whole evening and I'm angry at myself. That just ruins everything. It's like, it's completely unnecessary. Whereas, I mean, I sometimes walk and trip on nothing and that's fine. So we're human.
The question with that is, if you'd have gone out and played every note perfectly, would you have been happy? In terms of, would you have thought it was amazing?
I would rather have an honest exchange than a perfect exchange.
Exactly, yeah.
That's what I was telling him.
There you go.
Nice. All right. Let's see. Well done, Sergio. Very nice. Good
Yeah.
job. I don't know if Jared's backstage for any last questions. Then we're going to let Ksenia go. My daughter's been sat here the whole time. She says, I've worked Ksenia too hard. She needs a break. So,
thank you, Matilda. Appreciate it.
Jared, you got any questions?
Yes, I actually have one, if you don't mind speaking briefly about it. So in addition to composing music, I also want to become more of a soloist with ensembles. And I know you've just premiered a work for, is marimba with orchestra, correct? Okay. What is your process going about that? Do you start that process? Is it a composer? Is the ensemble? What does that look like for you?
I think in the real world, all three can be starting points, and it really depends on what your relationship is. For me, it was the composer, Chris Boardman, who's a wonderful composer who had a really, really big career in Hollywood. Like, he's Oscar nominated. He works with Steven Spielberg and like all these things. He was my film scoring teacher while I was at the University of Miami. So he only really knew me as a student. And obviously I invited him to all my recitals and he was lovely to come. And then a couple of years ago, he reached out to me, which made no sense to me, to ask me if he could write his first piece just for the concert stage for me and orchestra. So once that occurred as an idea, I connected the dots, and I knew Peter Askim, who is our wonderful conductor, and he has an orchestra in Raleigh. And we were like, should we do this all together? So I think there is people think that it seems like a pretty mystified process, but at least for me and for a lot of people I know, these kinds of concerts, they come through relationships. And genuinely, I've had relationships with these people, never thinking that this might happen. I wasn't pursuing that necessarily. So the best thing that I can say from this standpoint, maybe where you are, is just make as many friends as possible. And then things will brew and people want to work together, and then something might come up.
Cool. Follow-up. What does the process of preparing that sound like? Because I know with music that exists, we have recordings we can listen to and performances we can reference. But when nothing exists except for maybe a MIDI rendering, what does that process look like to you?
So you mean just for my process once the composition is done?
Either once it's done, or like, did you collaborate with the composer on techniques, sounds, things like that too?
Yeah, we went a bit back and forth. So we had a little bit of an exchange, and I sent him a little welcome package to the world of marimba, kind of like my favorite scores, my favorite pieces. What do I like? What is very successful? What kind of sits well in the instrument, so he could absorb some of that. And then I let him run with it, do whatever he liked. And then he would send that to me, and we would tweak very little, to kind of adjust things so that maybe they're more idiomatic. Once that is done, I love to be super prepared. So I'm the kind of person that, like, I memorize everything a million years in advance because I just want to feel comfortable. Talking about nerves, I know my nerves really will kick in if I don't know everything completely by heart. So I memorize a ton. I work a lot with the MIDI. I do a lot of score studies, so I know exactly where I'm supposed to fit in. I talk to the conductor about things. We have a reading rehearsal, and then I wait, and then I'm like, hey, what do you think about this or that? Can you hear me here? I, again, have a person listening at all times. For me, it's my husband. He's a percussionist, so he comes with me. He sits in the audience in that first rehearsal and tells me, you can't be heard above the horns here, and here you have to do this or that. So we're like, and I record everything, and I listen back at home, and, we adjust and we adjust. This time is so precious. You have so little rehearsal time, and you want to be super efficient, and kind of like what we spoke earlier about, Jared, about, traveling for 90 minutes and having that precious time to work with people. I just come in as prepared as I know how to be, so that when I'm there, I can be flexible and we can really work on ensemble and not me figuring out some sticking or something. So it's an exciting process. Again, I call it microwaving because it's so fast. It's kind of like you're nuking the thing to make it get into shape, but it's really interesting. It's very exciting.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for the question.
All right. I think we should probably let you go, Ksenia, because you've been amazing tonight. Once again, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for playing, Jared and Sergio and David and Zach. Really appreciate you folks. Yeah.
Thank you.
And thank you, Tim. Yeah, of course. Thank you, Tim, for being such a great host and for doing all of this for people around the world. It's a very special thing.
Yeah, it's very rewarding to see everyone come together from so many different places. It's an honor. So thank you, everyone. And it's an amazing session. Tomorrow, Megan is going to present because it's my birthday weekend. So I won't be here. So tomorrow is Theo Milkov. So he's going to be amazing tomorrow as well. So check in tomorrow, same time, same place. Until then, thank you very much.